this term influential that we keep hearing, influencer, it has some negative to it, and I don't necessarily see it that way. But I think sometimes people out there are getting this. For example, just recently there were a couple of young ladies who were Instagrammers who revealed their chests to the public, so that and they had already made a deal with these websites that they were going to promote it on national TV, and they did it under the veil of breast cancer awareness. Now, these happen to be these huge Instagram following people. They had a lot of followers. It got a lot of headway, but it became kind of the wrong message. It wasn't a positive message. It wasn't like that you got directed to a breast cancer website to make a donation, et cetera. And there might be some back channels, let's say, where they're making donations on the back end. But, how do you feel about this whole world of influential or influence marketing that you're involved with?
Well, I think it's an interesting question that you raise. And what I always say to people is I think of it more in terms of not so much just influencing, but also just advertising and marketing. So in the past we had the traditional advertising. We had, the magazines and the newspapers and TV and all that stuff. And sometimes you would have celebrities in it. So influencers, they're micro celebrities to a certain extent. So it really is kind of taking the celebrity, the traditional celebrity out of that and subbing in the micro celebrity, the influencer. But at the same time, so that's one shift that we're seeing in the market. But the second shift that we're seeing is moving from this traditional advertising to non-traditional, to social media like YouTube and Instagram and blogs. So really what I say to people is, you're not just totally an influencer. You're actually a marketer. You're an advertiser. And that's how I approach my own work, in the sense that, when I talk with a brand, I think of it as a typical advertising pitch. What are the deliverables you're seeking? What is your target market? Okay, here's my target market. Do we align? I think that influencers have, and, celebrities as well, of course, they have a heightened responsibility to, be socially responsible about the advertising campaigns they take on, and to be authentic. I personally, that's what I do. When I am approached by a brand, I have to say to myself, number one, above all, is this something that I actually would use or I do use? Do I agree with it? Would I recommend it? And then, the next step is, will this appeal to my followers, of course, my readers and my followers? So, and I try to do it in a non-judgmental way. So just as an example, I was approached several times by vaping companies. I don't judge people who vape, but I personally don't vape, so I won't represent vaping companies. And that's my personal choice. And so I think, it's really up to influencers, who, as I say, are kind of the new advertisers, to be authentic and to be socially responsible. And, of course, regulations are always a little bit slow to catch up. So the advertising industry is very highly regulated, less so in the States and other parts of the world. But, nevertheless, that's still moving into the influencer area. So that's why influencers now, we have to disclose like hashtag ad, hashtag sponsored, or I partnered with X company to do this. So that's really important, and I think it's really up to us at this point. But I do foresee more regulation coming down the line. For example, in Dubai, which is actually the largest influencer market in the world, they already have to be licensed as influencers. So that may come down the line here in the States as well. And if that were the case, I would honestly welcome it, because, as I say, I do hold myself to a high level of responsibility socially and in terms of authenticity when I take on these campaigns, in terms of transparency. If there's a product I don't like, I sometimes I'll test them, and then I have to go back and say, I'm sorry, I have to withdraw from this campaign. I can't participate in this. But unfortunately, not everybody is that responsible. But, that's the case with everyone. That's the case with celebrities as well. We see them involving themselves in things maybe they shouldn't.
Well said. You've had that question a few times. You're really feeling good about what you do, and you have to feel good about it.
Yeah, and I think, as I say, we should generally apply this in everything we do in life. You should be holding yourself to a high standard of social responsibility. But that's even more so the case now as the world is becoming more interconnected through social media.